that is the mindset of the leftist base of people like Whoopi Goldberg and the other hags on The View. They truly, truly do not believe that they have engaged in violence. They actually believe they've just participated in activism to save democracy, and that anything goes if it's to accomplish that goal. Hello, welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for the support on my channel. I like to give my opinion and perspective on things that are happening today, things that I think actually matter to everyday people, especially those of us trying to raise kids in the insanity known as today's society. We are not CEOs of big corporations, we're not part of the mainstream media, and we do not live in the Hollywood bubble. We are also not politicians in Washington, D.C., but we do have to live with the consequences of the decisions being made and the narrative being pushed by the people in the previously mentioned categories. If you feel like that describes you and you know exactly what I'm talking about, please like this video, leave a comment below, and also share it. Also, be sure to subscribe. All of these things help me to grow my channel and hopefully to reach more people that value logic, reason, and sanity. Also, be sure to find me on Rumble under Outspoken Samantha in the event that YouTube decides I have violated their community standards and chooses to kick me off their platform forever. That being said, let's get into today's topic. So, to be fair, in my intro, I like to say that I like to talk about things that I think actually matter to everyday people. To be fair, I don't know that today's topic is really that significant in the grand scheme of things. It's just something that I just found so humorous, but I think did have a good, a message to kind of wrap it all up together, that I did think it was important to at least address it. As most of you know, I'm sure you've seen the clips circulating with Ted Cruz on The View, with the hosts / the hags of The View this week. And, the only time that any of us with any common sense would go out of our way to even watch a clip of this show is to know that they have somebody on there that is going to hand their butts to them on a silver platter, just with facts and with truth, and to really challenge all of their complete stupidity. We've all heard for years the absolute nonsense that comes off, out of the mouths of these women. And I've said over and over again, if the left were really interested in curbing the spread of misinformation, The View would be the first show to be taken off the air. These women are hostile, they're vicious, and about as close-minded of a group of old hags that probably has ever existed. And I know that for most of us, to keep our sanity, we watch this show as little as possible. And the day that it's taken off the air should probably be marked as a national holiday. Guys, Christmas is my favorite holiday. I start counting down the days to Christmas starting in January. I start playing Christmas music in October. I start watching Christmas movies in August. I love Christmas, but honestly, the day that The View is taken off the air, I could probably be swayed into that day becoming my new favorite holiday. I'm not entirely sure how I would decorate for it. Maybe with wilted flowers and deflated balloons. I'm not sure, but we know how absolutely horrendous this show is, and that the women on this show know absolutely nothing about how the real world works. They know nothing about how the government works. They are the first ones to push the most vile, divisive narrative that they possibly can imagine, and they're about as far removed from everyday people and reality as a person can get, or as a group can get. So, I think there's a case to be made that Joe Biden is more aware of what blue-collar workers and parents raising their kids in today's society have to deal with than Whoopi Goldberg or Joy Behar. So, and that's saying something. So, sorry for the long setup, but I really needed to depict how horrendous this show is. Absolutely vile and out of touch these women are. But I'm for free speech, so I'm also not advocating to cancel it, because I do think that everybody should be able to say the things they want to say, and then we use our brains and our ability to process information and think critically to determine what is real and what is not, and make the most informed decisions possible. I'm just saying that the day that it goes off the air will just be, beautiful, momentous, historic. So I do have to ask, why on earth would Ted Cruz willingly step into this blazing furnace of like hatred and poison? So first, if you've seen a few clips of the show that he was on, it's important to at least get an idea of what happened and how he got these women just completely worked up. One of the things they discussed, or rather Ted Cruz discussed, and the hags of The View just really hissed at more than anything, was this double standard. The fact that every single time a Republican president wins, every single time the left says the election was stolen, it was illegitimate, there was meddling, there was foreign countries involved, there's something. Every time a Republican president gets elected, this is their argument. So this is something that they discussed. Let's watch that clip really quick.
There's a lot of folks in the media that anytime, hold on, I'm answering exactly that question. There are a lot of folks in the media that try to, anytime a Republican is in front of a TV camera, try to say the election was fair and square and legitimate. You know who y'all don't do that to? You don't do it to Hillary Clinton, who stood up and said Trump stole the election.
They didn't storm the Capitol. They didn't try to kill my former
Abrams, who said that the election was stolen. They sat here and said it was illegitimate, and you guys were fine with it. Okay, so it's illegitimate when Republicans win, but not when Democrats win.
No, you know.
I love, as they're like spitting and sputtering over the hypocrisy that's being pointed out, Ted Cruz actually busts out a list of all of these instances of the left claiming that the election of a Republican president was illegitimate. It's like he knew exactly what these women were going to do and the topic that they were going to bring up and the talking points that they were going to use and to attempt to try to justify it. So just watch that really quick. It's wonderful.
Whatever she didn't say. I'm saying to you, listen.
And she said it's sitting here, and you were fine with her saying it was illegitimate for Republicans to win.
She called Donald Trump the next morning, and she conceded the election, Ted.
Okay,
Just the call. As did Stacey Abrams.
All right.
She sat there while Donald Trump was getting
Hillary Clinton
sworn
says
in.
Trump is an illegitimate president. Hillary Clinton says the election is stolen from you. Hillary Clinton in 2002, George W. Bush was selected, not elected. Joe Biden, Al Gore was elected president. So Joe Biden claims George W. Bush.
And then Whoopi Goldberg had the audacity to say that the left, when things don't go their way politically, they don't storm, they don't riot, they don't get violent, they don't get angry, they continue to do their job. Let's just watch that real quick.
Republicans win, but not when Democrats win.
No, you know, here's the thing. We may not like when Republicans win, but we don't go and we don't storm. We don't try to change, but we'll go to court. We don't do that.
Did I miss an entire year of Antifa riots where cities across this country were burning and police cars were being firebombed?
I guess you did.
Your position is the left doesn't engage in violence? Really?
No, they wanted to nuke our friend Mike Pence. Like, how do we make sense of that?
You just accused us of doing something we didn't do.
First of all, to say that the left continues to do their job even when somebody is in office that they don't like, need I remind you of like 3 years straight of non-stop Russian hoax, stuff that has been debunked, proven to be to have been bought and paid for by the Clintons with no basis whatsoever, that it was completely 100% false, that they spent like between 40 and 50 million dollars on this investigation. They didn't do their jobs for 3-4 years. All they did was focus on trying to take Trump down while completely ignoring what their constituents needed and wanted, and abandoning their jobs as elected representatives. So there's that. And then, you know, I don't know what kind of mental state you have to be in to side with people who make such blatantly false claims, who just gaslight to no end. That the left doesn't engage in violence when they don't get their way. I mean, really? Really? Like, this is what happened when Trump was inaugurated.
Burning cars and smashed windows. A small group of protesters dressed in black, their faces covered, armed with hammers and bricks. Facing off with thousands of officers on site, many in riot gear, confronting them with flashbang grenades and pepper spray. All of of a sudden, the police officers started to spray pepper spray, and they got our audio technician. They're going to see us running because they're going to throw more flashbangs. The chaotic scene just blocks outside the secure area of the inauguration and parade route.
I personally have anti-establishment slants, but I don't think that this is anything that I want to be a part of.
This checkpoint is closed!
Before the swearing-in ceremony even began, protesters tried to block checkpoint entrances.
It's closed!
During President Trump's speech, several demonstrators were escorted out of the area. Several officers injured during the protest today, and more than 100 people arrested. Once the inaugural parade began, the newly sworn-in president facing thousands of peaceful protesters amongst his supporters. NBC's Stephanie Gosk was with him all day.
When Donald Trump took the oath of office, the people here sang, "We shall overcome."
Resist from day one!
Similar demonstrations across the country. Arrest outside Trump Tower, New York City. A human chain across San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. From Phoenix to Houston to Chicago, people protesting the country's new president on his first day in office.
Tonight, to mention, this is what happened during the Kavanaugh hearing.
These are live images, folks, at the doors of the Supreme Court, where you can see protesters have gathered. They are demanding that their voices be heard.
And just to name a few more incidents, there was when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and there were people threatening bodies in the streets if Trump dared to replace her before the election. There were people gathered outside of Senator Lindsey Graham's home, making noise and shouting threats, again, if they dared to replace her before the upcoming election. Not to mention of course, the months and months and months of endless Antifa and BLM riots of people from Congress, our elected representatives out there encouraging this behavior, saying, you know, people are going to do what they're going to do, and who said that protests need to be peaceful, and get in their faces and let them know that they're not welcome in your establishment. And then we had, of course, Vice President Harris bailing them out if they, for their crimes. So... And then, of course, recently, there was the unfortunate and incredibly tragic death of Kaylor Ellingson, who was run over by a guy because of their political differences. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been swatted for the 6th time just this week. This has happened several times over the last couple months, people making false reports to the FBI regarding, fabricated crimes to get the FBI to show up at her doorstep in the middle of the night and potentially cause a life-threatening situation. And then the really, really tragic and heartbreaking situation where a canvasser for Marco Rubio was out helping with his campaign, and he was violently attacked and physically assaulted by people yelling that Republicans were not welcome in their neighborhoods. So again, like Ted Cruz said, y'all's position is really that the left doesn't engage in violence. Like, really? Really? And honestly, my response to that is, yes, you do. That's honestly all the left does, is engage in physical violence and threats and attacks. But the truth is, I honestly believe this, that the left feels that the violence on their behalf from their party is justified to accomplish their political goals. If they can say that the right is a big enough threat that they can convince their base that physical violence and assault and vandalism and destruction and arson and threats and abusing the power of the Department of Justice is all justified, that they can say, well, we don't support violence, but if it is the only way that we can silence the people that we've been told are the problem, then I guess it's what needs to happen. And I truly believe that that is the mindset of the leftist base, of people like Whoopi Goldberg and the other hags on The View. They truly do not believe that they have engaged in violence. They actually believe they've just participated in activism to save democracy, and that anything goes if it's to accomplish that goal. So, to come full circle, why is it important that Ted Cruz went on The View? Honestly, Because truth matters. Truth is powerful. And of course, we're not going to convince people like the hags at the table of The View who yell and shout and who are so blinded by the idea that the right is such a threat that they're terrified to the core to even listen. We're not going to convince these protesters that get out there and yell and scream. If you saw Alex Stein's video where the young lady just screamed at him and spit on him, we're not going to convince those people. Those people are not ready to listen, and they may never be ready to listen. But most people are not like that. And as Ted said, I keep calling him Ted like I know him. Ted said in a follow-up interview with Megyn Kelly, there are people in that audience that have never heard from the other side. They have never heard the other perspective straight from somebody that comes from the other side, that comes from the conservative viewpoint. All that they have ever heard is what the media has told them about the right. So whether they've been told not to listen because the other side is scary, or the other side's trying to take away all our rights, or the other side's such a threat to democracy, or whatever talking point they've bought into, to never having seen any value in trying to listen to what conservatives have to say, despite the fact that Ted was battling against these cackling and hissing, hags from all sides, just yelling at him, from all positions. I guarantee that there were people in that audience or somebody on social media who saw a clip of it and heard what he said, and it struck a chord. It made sense. And even if it doesn't open up someone's mind immediately to the fact that they've been so deeply lied to on so many levels, it may have broken the trance even just a little bit. And this is why it's so important to keep talking, to keep sharing truth, even when it feels like you are in the middle of a full-on blaze and everyone and everything is spitting fire at you, and it doesn't seem like you're lowering the temperature at all or having any impact. You have no idea who has heard what you've said, who's heard the things that you have pointed out, and who will suddenly realize that hypocrisy matters, that double standards matter, that political violence is not acceptable from any side, who doesn't want to have a two-tiered justice system, who doesn't want to have our country run by the mobs, who doesn't want people to be bullied and intimidated into being silent, and who doesn't want to be lied to. The important thing is just to keep talking and to keep sharing and to keep pointing out the facts. Even if you feel like you're having no impact at all, you never know whose eyes may have just been opened just a little bit wider. Bravo to Ted Cruz for taking on these vicious, ruthless, relentless hyenas. Thank you for demonstrating why our First Amendment rights are so truly important, because without free speech, you would only hear from people like Whoopi Goldberg or from Joy Behar. You would only hear the media's perspective on, who gets to speak and who doesn't, who's a threat and who's not. And you would never hear from the other side. You would never have the opportunity to make a fully informed decision based on perspectives that come from more than just one group. Because to make truly informed decisions, you have to be able to hear more than, just an echo chamber, just from the media, just from The View, just from the people that all say the same things. You have to be able to hear things straight from the people that you've been told not to listen to. You have to hear it from them. And only then can you really decide what it is that you believe in and what you stand for and what you support, and really what it is that you want to advocate for, and really decide who you want to link arms with in your communities and in your political groups and whatever it is, who you want to stand together with. You may come to find out that once you start to hear things from the other side and you really do get all of the information, that you're not as one-sided as you thought you were, as you were told to be. So that is what I wanted to say. Thank you so much to Ted Cruz for taking on The View. It was entertaining to watch and really fun to see them almost lose their mind. So that's always a treat. Anyway, leave a comment below, like this video, share it, and I will see you in the next one.